Music has been an integral part of the history of a spectacular city in which all the arts seem inextricably woven together. Vivaldi, Venice's master of music for 40 years, epitomized the elegance of the city known as La Serenissima, the most serene one. Yet the city which once led one of the world's great empires is now more inclined to bemoan its precarious future than celebrate its glorious past. Flooding, pollution, and depopulation. These are the three great dangers facing the Venice of the 21st century. Every winter, flooding like this causes more damage to the city. It's the Venetians' greatest fear. Yet, despite decades of talk, tidal barriers designed to protect the city remain at the prototype stage with no sign of progress. And environmental opinion has switched away from such big engineering projects towards a micro approach, dredging out the canals, many of which contain as much as 45% mud.
When the tide grows up and comes into the lagoon, what happens is that with the southern wind blowing on the Adriatic Sea, the tide is prevented from getting out of the lagoon when the tide goes down. If the volume available for the expansion of water in the lagoon grows, like it can be by using these tools in excavating the canals, we will be able to have a lower tide even in period of high tide.
Yet it was canal dredging like this that made it so hard to fight the blaze at La Fenice. To fight everyday fires like this, they need full canals. So the dredging that's a solution for the city becomes a problem for the fire department. Everything in Venice is like that, a matter of juggling complex and often opposing interests. Venice, like the Great Barrier Reef, is one of the UN's World Heritage Sites. But whereas the reef would still thrive without a single human being, if Venice is to survive as a living city, it's got to preserve its human population. Yet the Farinati family, Guido and Giuliana, and their sons Carlo and Giacomo, are among a dwindling hardcore of Venetian-born citizens who remain on the island. It's hard at first to understand why people would want to leave. The Farinatis are so steeped in the city's culture that even the kids join in discussions about Renaissance art.
Noi abbiamo il Brunelleschi che inizia con il Rinascimento. Proprio il Rinascimento inizia con l'architetto Brunelleschi e poi abbiamo tutta la schiera di tutti i pittori, architetti. Michelangelo, naturalmente.
La socialità che si ha in una città come Venezia è diversa da una città come Milano o qualsiasi altra. Cioè, la macchina, l'auto ferma in qualche maniera la comunicazione tra uomini, tra persone.
Yet when you see Giuliana doing the daily shopping, you begin to understand why the population's down to 70,000, half what it was just a generation ago.
In cui la giornata si muove con ritmi diversi. Forse c'è meno stress, forse, però forse c'è più fatica, più fatica fisica in un certo modo. Perché camminare, bisogna camminare, pioggia, vento, acqua alta. Cioè l'acqua alta sì è bella in televisione, in cartolina, sul giornale, però quando capita è una città scomoda.
In other Italian cities, people have started moving away from the old-style market to do their shopping in massive superstores. Traditionalists may regret it, but increasingly it's what people choose. Not in Venice, however, where families like Giuliana's just don't have the choice. There are no cars, no supermarket trolleys, no option but to do it all on foot. And a shopping trip in Venice has pitfalls of its own. especially when it comes to buying fish. Pollution in the lagoon means that every purchase hangs by a thread of faith in the government.
Un istituto di igiene che provvede a vietare la vendita quando il pesce è adulterato, è pericoloso, come adesso quei peocci che hanno bloccato la vendita di questa.
Shallow as it is, the Venetian lagoon is full of fish, and it supports a thriving mussel industry. But 2 days before our arrival, oil had leaked from an underwater pipeline right into the area where the mussel growers farm. This one was less than 100 meters from the path of the slick. Much of this man's harvest will be confiscated by the pollution authorities. The Coast Guard turned us away from the site of the spill itself, but it emerged later that a drilling rig had accidentally pierced an underwater pipeline, enough to disperse a thin film of grease across most of the lagoon's surface.
An oil spill like this encapsulates the problems of modern Venice. On the one hand, the city obviously has to have a clean lagoon. Clean water is essential to the life of Venice. But on the other hand, the oil industry also represents thousands of jobs, and those too are essential to the city's life.
It's difficult to separate the city from the lagoon. So Venice exists because the lagoon exists.
What's in the lagoon is a filthy mixture derived from decades of unchecked industrial waste. First-time visitors to Venice find it almost unbelievable, but this is what shares the lagoon with the legendary city of the Doges. Porto Marghera, an industrial and petrochemical complex which was founded in the 20s and grew unchecked through the 50s and 60s. Though it's shrinking now, many of its petrol refineries, factories and port facilities remain active. This is the sewage outflow for the whole complex. The pollution police have to be allowed in by law. The samples are taken back for analysis in the Magistrato alle Acques laboratories. The legacy of decades of unpoliced industry is a lagoon full of lethal sediments. And the problem is that pollutants don't come with labels attached saying where they came from.
It's very difficult to prove that one industry have polluted the sediments. So probably I think that the government will have to pay for this.
So 10-year-old Giacomo Farinati doesn't know it yet, but when he grows up, his taxes will probably still be paying for the environmental mistakes of the last few decades. And there may be far fewer Venetians like him left to foot the tax bill. Giacomo walks 10 minutes to school each morning. When he gets to high school, it'll be far further, because dwindling population has caused the closure of so many schools. And when he leaves school and starts work, perhaps in the family glass restoring business, he'll find out what his dad already knows, that Venice is a hard place to work.
Dobbiamo sempre prenderla dal magazzino, metterla sulla riva, dalla riva alla barca, dalla barca di nuovo alla riva, dalla riva al negozio, ma sempre con un carrello. È tutto complicato per questo, per la sua, perché è fatta così Venezia, non ha auto, non è possibile circolare e andare direttamente in casa.
But work like this, connected with Venice's heritage or with tourism, is increasingly all that's left to those who want to remain. This is one of the windows from the Basilica of San Marco itself. Guido Farinati has the contract to restore them. His overheads are 25% higher than they would be on the mainland. He's one of the lucky few who can stay and make it pay.
Questo è un problema molto difficile. Difficile perché chi sta a Venezia, chi ha un certo lavoro, è con i denti che tieni questo lavoro, perché appunto l'esodo è più facile, insomma, è più facile in terraferma. Ci sono intanto più persone, quindi il rapporto si allarga, hai più possibilità.
On any day of the year, the number of tourists in Venice is now greater than the number of residents. Outnumbered, priced out of their own housing by Euro millionaires, under constant threat of flood and pollution, Venetians are an endangered species. Their survival depends on the skill with which they balance sensitive problems against complex solutions. It may be the greatest challenge in Venice's long history.